ASMR lists 20 absolutely random stories, according to Reddit. Number 20. We went out on a lad's night out, and somehow 2 random Scottish birds ended up coming back to our house with like 14 lads. We're all just drinking, having a laugh, when somebody points out that one bird is tossing my mate off under a blanket. We all make a joke about it, call them out, and tell them to go somewhere private. So he takes her to my bathroom. He fucks her on the bathroom floor, and they come back downstairs after the deed is done. I go for a piss, and there's a watery substance on the floor. So I ask, WTF is on my floor? She goes bright red. He starts laughing and said, she's a squirter, mate. I'm like, the fuck, dude? Clean it up. Nah, mate, is his response. So I went upstairs and cleaned the Scottish bird's jizz off of my floor with a mop. I went back downstairs with the mop, walked straight up to him, and slapped him across the face with the mop. Jizz slap. Jizzslap. Jizz slap. Number 19. This story was one of those legends passed down at college. I knew a guy who swears he met the guy involved. He was a really shy guy, pretty unlucky with the ladies, never had a girlfriend, but really nice and hoping to meet a nice girl. He went to a ball at another college and got himself pretty plastered, but managed to pick up, and the girl asked him back to her room. He went over the moon and back. They make out in her bed, but unfortunately, he's a bit too drunk and falls asleep. When he wakes up, he's still naked, and the girl is nowhere to be seen. He gets up and tries to find his clothes, and they are gone too. Hungover and utterly miserable, he realizes he's been duped. She never liked him. The whole thing was just a chance to pull some cruel joke. He wraps the sheet around himself and prepares to make the dash back to his own college, but he's feeling heartbroken and decides that it's time for revenge first. No one is going to make a fool of him like this. He makes sure the door is locked and then squats on her desk and lays an enormous, steaming, booze-fueled, sloppy turd all over her homework. Satisfied, he leaves, where he runs into her in the corridor, bringing back his freshly washed clothes with some coffee and bagels for them both. I've heard of homework, but turd work? TURDWORK. Turd work. Number 18. While I was in Iraq, we were sent on various missions. One night the Iraqi police came to us terrified. They claimed that there was a giant hairy monster eating Iraqi police. They asked us to go down and hunt it. We got our gear and patrolled southern Fallujah for 6 hours. After the patrol was over, we informed them that we were hunting the Iraqi equivalent of Bigfoot. So there we were, hunting a Bigfoot and Iraq. God bless America. What the hell was that? WTH was that? Number 17. I had been working a job under the table and was let go. They gave me a month's pay in cash as severance. I was in shock, not having internet at the time. This was dinosaur times before iPhones. I went to a local internet cafe downtown to update friends and family on what had occurred. As I'm typing, I noticed someone in my peripheral vision crouching down by my chair. I'd like to think the suddenness of having lost my job is why it takes a few moments for it to click. I look down, and my backpack is missing. I turn and see the guy heading upstairs to the ground floor. Not really thinking things through, I tear after the guy. I get to the top of the stairs and see him walking outside and have a moment of panic that he is going to hand my bag off to an accomplice. But no, I manage to catch up to him, and again, not really considering how badly this could backfire, I grab him and start yelling at him. Fortunately, he did not have a weapon, which was extremely lucky for me. Instead, he silently gave me back my backpack and then just walked away up the street. I was so hyped up on adrenaline that I just stood there, shaking for a while, before I went back inside to finish up. When I got back to my chair, I double-checked that my personal stuff was all still there, because I had heard sometimes they'll snake what they can in case they get caught. Fortunately, everything was there, including the envelope with my severance in it. I had totally forgotten about it up until that point. It was basically the only time I had ever carried that much cash on me. It was nearly $2,000. It happened to be the day that I was almost robbed. Whatever. WHATEVER. Number 16. I work with a guy who ended up on the ER after an intimate night with his girlfriend. They tried the back door, and apparently she had eaten jalapenos. A jalapeno seed went into his... Well, he was in a lot of pain. This is what he's known for at work now. Spicy pee-pee hole. SPICY PPHOLE. Number 15. For the love of God, when does it end? When I was a kid, we lived out on the country, and this very pregger's dog showed up on the farm. My stepdad told us not to feed it, because we already had more dogs than we needed, and if we fed her, she might stick around and have her puppies. So of course, we secretly fed her. Just as my stepdad predicted, she had her puppies. We were thrilled, but we knew that we would have to hide them from my stepfather. He is not a cruel man, but he would have killed them. It might be hard for a lot of people to stomach, but we were living pretty hand to mouth, and he lived in the reality of food for dogs versus food for kids. We didn't have the money to support stray puppies, or heck, even the money for gas to take them to the nearest shelter. After a few weeks of sneaking the mama dog food in the back of our food shed, she stopped showing up. I worked on a dairy, so I started sneaking a little milk home in my saddlebags to feed the pups. Unfortunately, after a few weeks of that, my stepdad found them and was pretty irate over the disobedience and stealing of the milk. However, with much pleading, my sisters and I convinced him to let us keep them. He said he wasn't paying for shots or food. Fine by me. Jesus. I could make in a few weeks at the dairy to get this done. Why is the soda bottle making so much noise? Unfortunately, orphaned puppies have very weak immune systems, and they all got parvo before I had the money. My sisters and I spent all day and night for several days trying to keep them alive with eyedroppers of water to keep them from getting dehydrated. One by one, each pup succumbed to the illness. Eventually, only a single one was left, and my stepdad, softened by our dedication, told us we could keep it if it lived. By some miracle, she lived. We named her Sassafras, and she was the cutest little Corgish mutt. One day my stepdad calls and tells me to grab a towel. I come outside with a bath towel, and he shakes his head, no, and sends me back to get a work towel. I come out and he looks at me as sad as a true blue cowboy could look and says, "I'm sorry, Pumpkin. I didn't know she was there." He had accidentally backed over the puppy's head when he put the farm truck into reverse. I am so sorry about reading this. I could not know. How could I know? Somebody literally just wanted to share a story about having puppies and all of them dying one by one. Can you imagine the type of person that would just decide to share a story like this? My God. There's random and there's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Sassafras had been there sleeping in the shade behind the tire, and he says, "It's your dog, you need to handle this." Damn, Dad. I will never forget how surprisingly hot the insides of my puppy was. I scooped her into the towel to bury her, and I was heartbroken. A month or so later, my stepdad comes into my room holding a baby possum in his hand next to his chest. I was perplexed because possums were a bane of the farm because they killed chickens. I stood there confused and gruffly say, "Well, are you going to take care of it or not?" He says that. I cautiously reach out and grab it. It wasn't a possum. It was a blue heeler puppy. She turned out to be the most amazing dog. I was blessed to have her in my life for almost 17 years and could write a book on all the adventures that we had together. I know my stepdad might get a lot of flack from the internet folks, but he was an amazing man who taught me so very much and offered very real and often hard lessons in the reality of life. I know I am better for having him in my life. Doggy doggy what now? DOGHEAVEN. Number 14. The camera in the woods. I don't know why yours needed a title. Nobody else has had a title. In front of my townhouse building, growing up, was a wooded area with a massive drainage area. My friends and I were trying acid for our first time at my house when we were 17 years of age. Standing outside, we see this little red light in the trees, like a camera. Tell them we must be tripping because I would have noticed that before. It's too dark to go investigate. Next day I don't see the light and kind of forget about it. Graduate, go to college, come back for a visit. My parents' friend was living with them since his house was empty. Their friend and I are standing outside smoking a bowl because my parents dislike smoking. He asks if I've noticed the light in the woods. We went to investigate in the morning and saw nothing. No camera in the daylight, nor red light the next night. 3 more years pass, and it turns out that one of the neighbors was spying on his wife, who wasn't cheating, but became obsessed with spying and moved on to neighbors and coworkers through recordings. The camera was disappearing because he had a string pulley system that went from a tree to his window and must have noticed people pointing to the trees toward his camera through live feed. It was a very clear fishing line, and that's how no one noticed. My neighbor caught him because the pull system broke and the camera fell into her car windshield. The cops were called. Just a lot of head ducking after that. P-E-E-P. Number 13. I was with 2 of my friends around midnight. We were in high school at the time, and were going to pull into the parking lot to smoke weed while sitting in the car. We had been there several times before, and it was private enough where nobody ever bothered us. This night we pull in, and we see a group of people just walking across the parking lot from the other side to the other. They weren't together, but almost 30 people throughout the parking lot just were walking in the same direction. They looked like they were from all walks of life, a construction worker, kids, a grandma, all different looking people. As we pulled into the lot, my friend's car shines his headlights on some of the people. Nobody turned around to look at us. They just kept walking without breaking eye contact with the field. I went to a park to smoke weed with friends and came across a cult or possible group of zombies. Is that what you think? Number 12. For a little bit of context, my husband went to an Ivy League school. He's a very smart dude. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, great. He and I take turns picking TV shows to binge on. My favorite is The Big Bang Theory. Reel it in, Kyle. I want to pick Law and Order SVU. Him, I don't know. It's not really. Thank you, Gomi. I appreciate the subscription. You are the love of my life. For anybody who is sexy enough to donate tonight, I have actually changed the noise that goes along with the donation. So will you be scary enough to try it? To go back to this entry, I want to pick Law and Order SVU for the next show. Him, I don't know, it's not really my thing. Me, what? You love crime shows. Come on, I love SVU. It's one of my favorite shows ever. Him, really? I've only seen 1 episode, but it was really weird. He eventually capitulated, and we started watching SVU. A few episodes in, he admits that he's enjoying it and that it wasn't what he thought it would be like. We watch a few more episodes and finally gets to an episode that starts like this. Lady, I need to report a crime. My daughter's been raped and she's pregnant. Detective, how old is your daughter? Lady, she's 22. Say Stabler, well ma'am, your daughter is an adult so she can file her own report. Lady, why don't you come meet her? At this point my husband says,
slap it on some toast.
The husband does not say slap it on some toast. What the hell is... What?
Slap it on some toast.
Oh my god. It would appear that Stripes has just gifted a sub to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different people. Jesus, woman. I appreciate that. That's above and beyond, Stripes.
Slap it on some toast.
Damn, you gave it to Dia too. Giving it to Dia. Giving it to Bree Bree or Bri Bri. I truly appreciate this.
Slap it on some toast.
You really know how to make noise in the middle of my damn ASMR list. I love you and appreciate you. Thank you. That better not be where the $40 you were gonna pay for me to play some dumb game went. Everybody harass Stripes with a game that you want to see me play because she wants to pay me $40 to play something. Or so she says. As we go back to the episode that the husband saw in this list, the lady comes and says she needs to report a crime on behalf of her daughter, who has been raped and is now pregnant. She tells Stabler, the detective, that the daughter is 22 and in fact has to file her own report because she is now an adult. The woman says that Stabler, the detective, should come meet her. And at this point my husband says, so this is the only episode I had seen. Stabler approaches the woman's daughter, who is looking down, her hair covering her face. I'm Detective Stabler, he says. The girl looks up, and she has Down syndrome. My husband pauses the episode and says, so, because this is the only episode I had ever seen, and the show is called Special Victims Unit, I about pissed myself laughing. He really thought that there were hundreds of episodes of Law and Order dedicated to solving crimes against the handicapped. I love him, but damn, how could he know otherwise if that's the only episode that he saw? The word for this entry is context. 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 I hope you can all slap it on some toast for the rest of the weekend, considering how much of it there was just now. If you're watching this on YouTube, let Stripes know how you really feel. Number 11. I went on a date with a girl off of Tinder, and we hit it off okay. No real chemistry though, and figured I'd never see her again. The next night she texts me and tells me that she's at a bar near me for a birthday party, and that I should come through. Boy, you better come through. I figure why not? I meet up, and we end up having a great time. She's super chatty, and there's definitely something there that wasn't there the night before. After a few hours, she tells me that we should go back to her place. Why the hell not? We're taking the cab ride back, and she's coherent and fine. We get to my place, and she opens up the door and face plants onto the street. She has somehow become blackout drunk during the 10-minute cab ride. At this point, she is incoherent and can't tell me where she lives, so I pick her up and walk her up the block to my place. I walk her up 3 flights and settle her in my room. I don't feel okay sharing a bed with her when she's like this, so I leave her some water and put a trash can next to the bed, just in case. I start to leave my room and head to the couch. I hear something as I get to the door and turn back in time to see her roll off my bed, hit her neck on the corner of the trash can, and slam onto the floor. She starts painting the walls like a sprinkler. I just watch it happen for a minute. I can't do anything. Once she stops, I pick her up and take her to the bathroom. She starts round 2 as I go back to my room and start cleaning up. After a few minutes, I go to check on her and she is passed out in my toilet. At this point, this is her completely immobile, and I can't get her up. She has become 50 pounds heavier. What is with the freezing? So I grab a pillow, put her head in my lap, and resolve to sleep in the bathroom, which worried my roommate, or which had me worried that my roommate would stumble upon her in the middle of the night. After a few hours of rough sleep, she wakes me up and tells me she needs to use the bathroom. I leave and let her do her thing. After about 15 minutes, I get worried and go to knock on the door, only to find it ajar. I push it open, only to be confronted by a wall of stink. She passed out on my toilet while taking the most obscene shit. And her head is now jammed between the toilet back and my sink somehow. I managed to get her head free, but she is out. I can't do anything anymore. I can't get her up. I can't wipe her ass for her, so I leave her and go to the couch. After a few hours, I hear her get up and go to my bed. I check in on her and she is out, fully clothed, in my bed, and covered in puke still. Defeated, I just go back to the couch. I have work early in the morning, so I go to check in on her around 7 a.m., only to find that she has gotten... her period in my bed. I leave her $10, a t-shirt and jeans, and directions to the nearest laundromat. What the hell is this? She texted me later apologizing, and we went on another date and ended up sleeping together. Wonder what happened to her. A nigga, what the fuck? AYNIGGAWTF. Oh my God. Number 10. My story is my crazy ass medical drama that happened exactly a year and a half ago today. Everyone close to me knows about it, but it's weird talking about it to them because they all remember more than I do. It was a hard time for them too. So I wake up on May 1st, 2007 in excruciating pain. Some vomiting, so I thought I had some horrible food poisoning. That stopped after a couple of hours, but the pain just kept getting worse. It was in my entire abdomen, but mostly upper right quadrant. Eventually, my boyfriend at the time, now fiancé, convinced me to go to urgent care. They couldn't figure out what was wrong, though they thought maybe a gallbladder, and wanted me to get an ultrasound. Gave me some tramadol and sent me on my way to get the ultrasound. Except they couldn't get me in until 8 a.m., I went the next morning, barely able to walk, only thanks to the drugs, and had the ultrasound. Now, usually the techs doing it aren't supposed to tell you anything, but she told me to expect their call soon. By 11, I had a phone call saying to go to the emergency room and tell them that I was bleeding internally. At the ER, I get taken immediately back and the CT scan is done. Over 10 tumors on my liver, 2 that are 5 centimeters in diameter and 1 that is 10 centimeters in diameter, that has ruptured. Over the next 15 days I spent in the hospital in excruciating pain, with the epic amounts of Dilaudid. I'm majorly allergic to morphine. Multiple surgeons and doctors come to talk to me. Many scans are done, a biopsy is done, etc. It turns out they're hepatic adenomas caused most likely by contraceptive use. Holy shit. Not trying to have a baby done fucked you up. It took them forever to diagnose this because 1, they're super rare, and 2, they're usually getting one that is at largest a quarter sized. I had to have a liver resection, removing half of my liver and large bleeding tumor, which grew to 15 centimeters in the days that I was in the hospital. The resulting surgery gave me a fabulous 13-inch scar across the middle of my abdomen and another 8 days in the hospital following the surgery. It took about a month for me to be able to get out of bed and walk by myself around for more than an hour or so, and really a full 6 months to get mostly back to normal. I had 2 embolizations in September 2017 and October 2017 to try and kill the 2 5-centimeter tumors. Recently, I had a pain again and discovered that I had a new crop of tumors. I had another embolization in August 2018 to try and kill those. It's so annoying, and all of my family feels sorry for me all the time. They treat me like I'm so fragile, when I used to be the strongest one of the kids. I'm tired of being sick, and am more annoyed at my new tumors rather than upset by it. It's just a frustrating experience that is hard to explain sometimes. Every time I think something gets better, a new annoying thing crops up related somehow to the tumors. I wish I could move past this point in my life. Thanks for listening to me. Nothing to say about that sad one. Number 9. I saw a black and white cat club, as in a club whose members were the neighborhood black and white cats. I happened to glance across the street one night and saw about 5 or 6 cats heading for a neighborhood backyard. I recognized all the cats. None of them had the same owner. There was the grumpy one, owned by the old lady 2 houses down, the one that lived on the other side of the block, the probable stray, etc. Then I looked closer and saw that my new little black and white kitten was with them. What really makes this stick out to me is that it was only black and white ones, none of the other cats in the area. And I know there were other cats, differently colored cats in the area. I'm still scratching my head over what that was. A welcoming party, a gang meeting, a cult initiation ritual. Has anyone ever seen cats do this? Number 8. One time, in 2nd grade, we were talking about a standardized test. And then when we were done talking about it, we took it. That means all day, no talking, just filling in bubbles. One kid who sat across from me, who I haven't heard say a word all year, stands up in the middle of the test in complete silence and says, in an almost shout, "Has anyone seen Aladdin?" I reply, "The movie?" The kid says, "What movie?" in quite the inquisitive tone, and sits back down and goes back to taking the test as if it didn't just happen. Everyone was shocked, including the teacher. No one said a word after that. It was the weirdest moment of my life. Number 7. Was walking to the mailbox late one morning because I was expecting something important. The mailbox is roughly a half-mile from my house, and on the way I have to pass a bus stop. I was moseying along when I see the bus pull up, but I don't think much of it because it's hot, I'm tired, and I'm not getting on the damn bus. I'm just going to the mailbox. Well, the bus waits and waits and waits. The bus is not leaving without me. Do I walk past the bus and ignore the situation? Do I thank the bus driver for waiting but explain that I'm just getting the mail? No. I get on the fucking bus. What do I do next? I miss the stop I was planning to get off on. Next stop? Next town over. The bus only comes by once an hour, and that is how I ended up drinking tequila in a Walmart parking lot at noon. Never did make it to the mailbox. I think this entry is important to anyone who thinks that their life has fallen apart. You're not this guy. Number 6. I accidentally stole a car. I had just gotten off work, I was working 2 jobs, and I got barely any sleep. I walk out, get into a car, start it up, start driving home. I didn't realize something was wrong until I couldn't fit my auxiliary cord, and then I started realizing that there were things in the car that were not mine, like the child seat in the back. I was an 18-year-old with no kids. I flip a U-turn and bus ass back to work to hopefully get the car back before the owner notices it's gone. I didn't. The cops were there and I was quickly arrested. The owner dropped the charges only after 3 things were done. I showed my keys unlocked and started her car. Then pointed to my car, which was the same model, color, and year. One of my coworkers vouched for the fact that the customer parked in the spot that I almost always parked in, and camera footage was pulled for the past 9 days that I had worked, showing that 7 of those days I parked in that spot, and the other 2 I parked close to it. Can you imagine somebody else's car starting your car just because it's the same make and model? You hear that, criminals? I'm kidding. Number 5. 6th grade, I hit a major growth spurt, so many of my clothes didn't fit. My family couldn't afford new ones. Once winter came around, the only jacket that I had that could fit was much too thin to be of any use. My teacher noticed that I had walked into class one morning and saw a big fluffy winter coat on the back of my chair and a Chicken Soup for the Soul book on my desk. Her kindness still makes my eyes water, even almost 2 decades later. Miss Robertson, if you're reading this, thank you. I never forgot. I never forgot. I never forgot. Number 4. What the hell is this? The play-by-play numbered list of the most inconvenient day of my life. Not the worst day, the most annoying and inconvenient and overall sucky. Number 1. Got woke up by a frantic phone call from my friend asking me to drive him and his dog to the airport. I say yes because I'm stupid and nice. Number 2. Paving stone falls off a truck in front of me and punches a hole in my transmission. My car is totaled. Number 3. Convince my other friend to pick me, friend 1, and dog up on a whim and drive us to the airport, then me off to my parents' house to get a different car. Number 4. Arrive at the airport late and get stuck at a dog drop-off because the crate friend 1 brought is too small. Dog not allowed on plane in such a small crate. Number 5. Except that now I have to watch friend 1's dog for a week while he is gone because he fucked up and didn't plan anything out. Maybe he did and he was just trying to fuck you over. Number 6. Friend 2, dog, and I drive to my parents' house an hour away to pick up car. Battery is kaput in the new car. Number 7. Spend next to 2 hours buying new battery for car. By now it's dark and I've wasted my whole day running errands and wrecking my car for my friend because I'm stupid and nice. Number 8. Finally start driving home with the dog from my parents' house. Number 9. Halfway home, some pedestrian bolts out into the middle of the highway and I ended up swerving not to hit them. But it didn't work. Hit woman with the car. Number 11. Freak out, pull over, run into the street to see if woman is okay. Number 12. Woman is fine. Only managed to smack the side mirror, but strung out on drugs and very out of it and crying. Number 13. I feel terrible for hitting her, obviously, so I offer to drive her to wherever she needs to go, because I'm stupid and nice. Number 14. She gets in, we drive to a trailer park to meet her boyfriend. She is on the phone the whole way and is complaining to her boyfriend about the crazy guy who hit her with a car. She did not realize at the same time that I was that guy. Arrive at the trailer park and immediately the dog manages to open the door and bolt out of the car. Without thinking, I run after him, not my dog, I ain't gonna lose it, and chase him for about 20 minutes. Realize I just left a meth head in my parents' car alone with the keys and the ignition. Freak the fuck out again and run back to my car. Meth head is still there. I tell her that I need to take the car and chase down this dog. She responds with, "I'm sorry I ruined your day," very sarcastically. Number 20, lose my temper and tell her to get the fuck out of my car. Number 21, finally catch the dog after 2+ hours of chasing him through a trailer park. 22, drive home and quietly drink myself silly from the shitty day I just had. Sometimes life hits you hard, huh? Number 3. So when I was very young, they released a large number of pedos from jail in one go in my town. This led my mother explaining to her vocabulary proficient 3-year-old toddlers what a pedo was. And they're bad people who want to hurt little kids. Well, a couple of weeks later, I got lost in a mall. My parents start frantically looking and hear me screaming pedo at the top of my lungs, and they race over, and it's this little old lady who had tried to ask me if I was lost, and apparently she was mortified. It's been 24 years, and it's still brought up at family functions. Number 2. I live in a small rural town. When I was 7, my parents let my older sister and I ride our bikes about 3 to 5 miles into town to get lunch at the only restaurant in town. My cousin's mom, no, my mom's cousin owns this restaurant. I didn't realize how long a 3.5-mile ride was, and it was hot, and I was tired and crabby and burned my tongue on my burger, so I threw a fit and refused to ride my bike home. A stranger overheard my sister and I arguing about this and offered me a ride home. He said he could just put my bike in the back of his truck and everything would be fine. My sister agreed because she didn't want to have to call my parents to come pick us up, and she was tired of my whining, and also she was 10 years old and dumb. I realized on the drive home that I hadn't given the man directions or told him my name, but he somehow knew my name and where I lived. He dropped me off at home, helped me put my bike in the garage, and then drove down the road to go visit my grandparents. It turns out that the man was my grandpa's brother, one of 12 siblings. He recognized me because I looked just like my mom did at that age. Everybody expected that to end differently. Number 1 on the list of 20 absolutely random stories reads as follows. A few weeks ago, I was visiting Los Angeles. I'm from Spain, but I am fluent in English. I needed help finding directions to a certain address, and I'm in a downtown at this point on foot. I ask a guy on the streets if he knows where the address is, and he responds with, "No hablo inglés," which is, "I don't speak English," in Spanish. Being from Spain, I understood him, and asked him again in Spanish. And then he says, in crystal clear English, "Dude, I just don't want to talk to anyone. Leave me alone." Someone responds, "Reminds me of that tweet that was on the front page yesterday. A guy orders an Uber and it says that the driver is deaf, so text him any instructions that you need him to know. The guy texts him and the driver says, 'You can just tell me. I only say I'm deaf so I don't have to talk to people.'" If you like this video, then like the video. Thank you to my sponsors. Thank you to my patrons. And thank you